Hello, and welcome to World Water Week. The backbone of the wash sector in many countries are small and medium-sized enterprises offering a variety of essential and access-giving services. Today, we're looking at how strategic investments in these enterprises can transform the water and sanitation sector and their outcomes in developing markets. To bring us deeper insights into this topic, I'm joined by Namita Banka, the founder and managing director of Banka Biolu, an innovative leader in providing sustainable sanitation solutions across India. I'm also joined by Kajetan Hetzer, the executive director at Waste, an international development organization catalyzing sustainable solutions to wash challenges, and Sylvia Gizeman, portfolio manager at Cardano Impact Investing, and bringing expertise in financial models that drive social impact. Thank you all so much for being here. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here. Kajetan, I'm going to start with you. Help us all get up to speed. Why do we need a new playbook for financing WASH?
Yes, thank you very much for setting the scene here. And I realized the first time is 20 years ago that I was at the World Water Week and talking about finance when I was here actually as a commercial investor working in impact investing. And raised the question, okay, these problems are huge, but where do you get all the money from? And how to invest in a sustainable way? That also maybe some money is coming back. So that time it seems to be I was far too early, and now would be the right time actually. So I'm very happy to use this momentum, and hopefully now action is following. But just in case anybody missed it, so we are far beyond reaching the SDG 6 in water and sanitation. So we are lagging behind dramatically, which is not good at all because it's got an impact on livelihood, but also the economic development of countries, etc., etc., etc. 260 billion is wasted because lack of access to water and sanitation. So there's also, next to social and environmental, also a huge economic cost. But same, there are opportunities. So since we are not at speed now, we have to speed up, which means we also need to bring in new ideas, so thinking out of the box, and also to bring in new players. Because the finance gap is huge. 144 billion annually is required. So we need to triple this to get some money in. So when I'm talking about new players, I'm looking left and right to enterprises coming in with smart ideas, doing what others have not been doing or in a different way. But also talking about finance, to my right, to Cardano, to help to chip in setting proof points for helping to closing this finance gap.
Thank you so much for that. So then we need change, but this change is maybe a little bit slow in coming. I think you said that you were first here 20 years ago talking about financing in the water sector, and we're still having this conversation. It feels like we're almost always at the beginning of it. So yes, it is really great to have partners here like Cardano Investments to start talking about these questions maybe a little bit more tangibly, but also you did really mention that huge financing gap that exists. But also the huge, I think, as you mentioned, those huge economic losses that we're facing as a global community if we don't start acting now. So there's a lot to gain here. Thank you so much for helping us get a better sense of it. Namita, I'd like to come to you. Banka Biolu started as a small and medium-sized enterprise addressing critical sanitation needs. And we were just chatting a little bit earlier, said, those were very personal for you. You're really facing those as an individual living in India. So what impact have you seen on the WASH sector as a result of your work? And also, what challenges are in place that prevent small and medium-sized enterprises from expanding their impact and their reach?
So for us, we started off 15 years ago when sanitation was not even known to us. Like all of us faced the problem of not having access to clean water and sanitation spaces in India, particularly. But I realized that most of the work was done by the NGOs or the nonprofit or the government, which I personally felt that should not be the case. If you really want to change, we need to have some enterprises model where we need to really drive it as a business. And that's how I started in 2009. And it's been a long journey since then. And to quote here that we were 67% open defecation free country. And in 2019, we became open defecation free country. So that's the change I've seen in last 10 years. A lot of investments did come in the form of different methods, but definitely water and sanitation was not a priority sector lending. There was money for hardware, software, many services, but sanitation in whole was not looked at into it. But I feel that it's been quite some time now that people have started looking at India, and we feel that SME is playing a very big role in this change that has come about. So that's where we are with the thing. And the second question you asked me about the impact.
Yes, exactly. How can we work towards improving that impact? So what challenges are in place that prevent small and medium-sized enterprises from reaching their impact?
So the impact can only be seen when it is coupled with the real work, with the right kind of investments. So the first thing is that the lens that the government or the financing institution look at wash companies is at par with any other manufacturing company, which I think need to be changed, because it's much more difficult to deliver the services than deliver a product in the market. So that's where the thing is. And I feel the bankers have to also look at, and the investors have to look at it as a long-term gain, not a short-term gain. Because any effect that you do today will show up after 5 years or 10 years. If you want to really see a community free of disease, it will not happen tomorrow. So your investment today will make a difference tomorrow. So that's where the impact of wash investments and wash SMEs can actually make their sustainability. Most of these are not dependent on grants, or they're not dependent on anything which is externally driven. They're more driven by the work they do. So I think that's the change that I've seen, and that's where a lot of SMEs have come in past 4-5 years, and that's making the real change in the wash sector in India.
Thank you. I mean, what I hear from you is that I think as a model, we shouldn't be afraid of that profit-driven model that's necessary for enterprises to be successful, but that also brings that longer-term sustainability. There's a shared goal, right?
Yes.
And also that creates a new opportunity for a different model of financing, but we have to extend the horizon. We have to
Yes.
look beyond just immediate gains and onto that longer-term future. Thank you so much for that. Kayetan, I'm going to come back to you. We've just heard from Namita the importance small and medium-sized enterprises are making in WASH and making it more accessible. How do we address some of the financing challenges that Namita has shared in terms of not being able to access things like grants? And how might we fight these? How might we change as these enterprises grow? How can the financing model change to grow with them?
Yeah, that's an easy question. So I'm afraid I don't have got the magic stick. That might be a surprise. But it's a challenge, a battle worthwhile to fight, and the consequences not to do so would be tremendous. The costs are even higher. And having the right type of capital, and also a huge amount actually, is crucial. So investors are looking for 100 million, they start to think about the market. And now we have got too few good examples which are investable. So we need to help also to build a pipeline with technical assistance, capacity building, to bring more companies to the play, to become investable. And what means investable? This is also where we need to find a balance between what the financial sector needs. We're coming to it later. There are different type also of financial players, investors, with different type of conditions. So first to bring in the softer money, and grants is not the ultimate solution, also could cause a problem to block entrepreneurship, but it should be used in a catalytic way to pave the road towards private investments, and then more and more also commercially, and as more commercial it becomes, also bigger it becomes. And this is required to help closing this enormous funding gap, if you like it or not. So technical assistance, pre-investment, but also po-investment of portfolio companies to set the example, to showcase that it works, how it works, and to create a ripple effect, cookie cutters, we like to call it, which are indicating this is market or market segments. And then also providing capacity building on knowledge. That's our responsibility as ecosystem players to help also that the financial industry understands and is coming in. So it's a journey with different players, different sequences, different type of financial instruments, customized towards long-term sustainable solutions.
Thank you so much. So I hear from you, it's a journey, but we have to have the right capital in place in order to take that journey. But we also need to have that good pipeline and replicable solutions that I heard you say, very strongly. But also that grants can both be catalytic, but also create barriers if they're not used in the right way. So we have to be quite clever in terms of how we're thinking of that. And I think that's a great time to come to Sylvia. Cardano Impact Investing has recently turned its focus towards the wash sector. So can you share what motivated this decision and what unique opportunities you see investing in wash initiatives? Where can we grow from there? And perhaps maybe you might be able to mention how you've navigated some of those challenges as well.
Yeah, so thank you for inviting me here. Maybe just quickly, so Cardano is a mid-sized asset manager in the Netherlands. And we've always done all of our investments on a sustainable manner, and water has always been one of the 3 focus areas within our sustainability policy. So I think we've always been focusing on water on every level within the company. I'm sitting in the impact investing team, which has also been around for quite a long time. And we've been mainly focusing on microfinance, financial inclusion, SME finance. And a couple of years ago, we did a pilot in our other fund where we provided a loan to an MFI in India that was dedicated to wash with result-based finance and supported by Finnish Mondial and by Waste. And it was a really successful pilot. So that sort of started our journey to set up a new wash investment. And the hurdles, well, our main clients or the clients that we focus on are the institutional clients from mainly the Netherlands and Western Europe, so the pension funds, insurance companies and the likes. And when we talk to them and say emerging markets wash, they have red flags, it's high risk, and they want high returns, and they say double digits when we first talk to them. And a lot of that is perceived risk, because we have the track record to show that it's not as risky.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of perceived risk, and it's up to us to develop funds that try to overcome that. But that is a really long journey with them.
Yeah, I can imagine, and I can imagine for those who are not necessarily part of the sector that they do feel those risks that they're not necessarily facing or seeing the opportunities that we're all seeing when we sit within the sector. I have another follow-up question for you, but before I do that, I thought maybe I could ask you quickly. You mentioned the term result-based finance. Can you tell us quickly, what does that mean?
So the pilot that we did, we provided a loan to an MFI dedicated to wash. So they needed to use that loan to deploy to their wash portfolio, and we link certain impact targets to that loan. And when they achieve that, they can get a sort of interest rate discount up to a certain amount based on what they have achieved.
Wow.
We go out into the field, have a third party sort of verify that impact and make sure that we actually get the impact and it's not just on paper. But it's sort of an extra incentive for the MFI to actually use our loan towards the wash portfolio.
Yeah.
Because when the minute we give the money is fungible, they can use it for the general MFI portfolio, and that's not what we want. We really want them to use it for the wash portfolio.
Wow, that sounds fascinating, but it seems like a very effective tool as well.
Yeah,
interesting. So then my follow-up question for you is that we see now this interest and traction from investors. Right? I mean, it's great. I mean, Kaiten said he was here 20 years ago, but now I think we're seeing a little bit more of that traction. So how do we increase that? How do we take it to scale? And who else do we need to be part of this conversation? And what do we need them to be doing?
Yeah, and to be honest, I mean, there is interest, but it's a lot of like-minded investors that are here at the conference. So it's DFIs, family offices with a specific focus on wash, high net worth individuals, maybe foundations, etc. And I think to take it to scale, we need that institutional money, the private capital. And I think a lot of them will have a sustainability policy where it focuses on water or maybe health, but I hardly have seen anybody that's focusing on wash. So we need to somehow get the topic of wash mainstream, get it in the boardrooms of those pension funds and insurance companies and what have you, and have that discussion. So we are now focusing more on institutional investors that have a sort of background in health or in water, because the minute that you talk to the pension funds and medical practitioners on sanitation and toilets, they understand what it's about. So that's an easier discussion, but we need to make it more mainstream than that, I think.
Okay, yeah, and I think that's a really important point that you raised, and I think something that all of us from the the water sector should be taking with us, that there's an importance in that communication and that demystification, that we have to start speaking to others, not just those who are constantly coming to the same meetings, but start talking a different language. And as you and both Kajetan also mentioned, that need for those good examples.
Yeah.
How do we make it something that someone who is not part of this sector can feel comfortable with and come along that journey with us? Thank you so much for that. I have a quick follow-up question, and maybe I'm going to throw that one to you, Kajetan, if it's okay. How do you envision the WASH investment landscape changing over the next 5 to 10 years? Do you think there'll be any key shifts, or who else do you think might be in the...
It's wishful thinking since I'm coming here since 20 years, but I see progress in the right direction, but again, too slow. It's also what I would like to say, I see less is misalignment, competition, blocking, using resources in a smarter, collaborative way, so more collaboration. And so this is our genes at Waste. So we are engaging the different stakeholders from low-income communities to the public sector, then also to strengthen supply chain, the private sector, and last not least the financial sector, and to stitch it together. So since there are no silver bullets, it also needs a more customized approach. For this Finnish program here, we started on microfinance. You need different type of partnerships, different type of stitching together. Then with the other initiative we are working on SMEs, Take a Stake, where we have got Social Business as a partner. That's our fund management partner. And also IKEA Social Entrepreneurship, supported by the Swedish development agency, SIDA, which was open for taking up this challenge. So it's also to look what's the problem, what is the set of solutions, and what are the stakeholders and partners you need to customize. But to collaborate, distribution of roles, and to align better and not trying to do everything by yourself and putting your flag on your label there.
Yes.
And think you can take all the glory, because that's not working.
That's not going to work. Namita, maybe I can also ask you the same question. How do you think that the landscape is going to change over the next 5 to 10 years?
So now, since we have a proven model of entrepreneurship and many people are looking at that, and we have reference, like before there was no reference, like there was nobody in the sector which it was proven to be profitable. So I think the question what Sylvia said was like they compare and they feel perceived risk. So now there will be no perceived risk, because people are there out in the market who are already making profits, and they're showing that this industry is there to stay for next few decades, and please invest in this.
Brilliant.
And there will be a lot of more entrepreneurs like us coming up and showing up that this is going to work.
I think we desperately need that. We need those entrepreneurs there, because I think it's just too much for the public sector
So
to
the
take
company
on its
for us, like we went IPO early because we had nobody investing in us. We had to take that route because we needed the money, but we didn't know whom to approach. So somebody told us, let's go IPO, and we went IPO. So it's a very, very small stage. So I think those small decisions taken in haste will not be there anymore, with more investors coming in, more people looking at the companies and really looking at the services and the products they're offering to the market in WASH sector.
Very interesting.
Just my add, because what you told me at the beginning is that you're also picky on the type of capital. So it's not only chasing the money, which could also cause more part of the long-term problem. And this is what I like, is that you are looking for the right type of patient investor.
It's not type of patient. We just look at people who understand the WASH sector, and they understand why we are taking this money. So it is, we don't look at the terms like, okay, everybody has a term like 3 years, 5 years, it's okay. But why they want to invest in this? What is the ultimate goal for them? And that's why. Otherwise, then there are banks, there are many other NBFCs who can give money at a higher rates. So we are looking for people who can understand us, give us a little concession on the interest rates. So that makes a lot of difference. Even 1% makes a lot of difference to us. So that's the reason.
We just have less than a minute left to chat. And so I'd like to ask you all, we've had many different perspectives here today that you've shared, but we also have a really captive audience. So tell us, what's that one thing you want them to walk away with from this conversation? One thought, one word, one sentence. Sylvia, I'll start with you.
Ooh, so one sentence. So I think make WASH investment mainstream. I know there's a number of investors here at the conference. The more welcome to do junior investments and take away that risk. Really helpful. but be flexible, be also able to, invest alongside senior investors to help us, for instance, launch the fund, because that gives us something for investors to choose from, but also an example, right? So we need more funds and examples to show that we can actually deliver risk return and impact for institutional investors.
Perfect. Kajetan.
Okay, yes, much more of the right type of capital is needed, but also making better use of the existing resources, capital, but also non-capital. And again, my appeal to alignment and collaborative action and distribution of roles, to team up together. Yeah.
Perfect. And Namita.
For me, the momentum which is catching up now should continue at a much faster speed to see a lot of changes in the coming days.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for participating in this really interesting conversation. I've certainly learned a lot, but I've also think for me that role of the small and medium-sized enterprise and the need for better financing options to support them has just been really reinforced for me. So I'm walking away with a lot from this conversation. Thank you so much again. Thank you so much to our audience for joining us today, and thank you to those online who've joined us today. It's been a pleasure to have you, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you.